Welcome to the Boy2Man podcast, where we help you go from boy to man in mind, body, soul, and heart. I don't even know if I said back or not, but this is obviously the very first episode, and we're just winging it here because we just want to get the reps in. We were literally just having a conversation prior to us starting, in the sense of, you know, there's no right time to jump into something like this, and the only way to jump in is to actually jump in, and test it out, get the flow of it. And so, the furthest we gotten is me just riffing on a name and a little tagline that I just gave to you guys, and that's about it. So I got a few topics here that we can, run in, but I think a good place to start, for me at least, is just kind of explain who we are, and use this as kind of like a background, and then just see where it goes. I think the one thing that I really want to get us to do, or have us both try to do, is like really get out of the idea that it's a podcast, and really get into the idea that this is like just like a weekly conversation where we're both consciously, without our phones, without any distractions, and we're kind of just talking about topics that we want to talk about, and that we would normally talk to each other about. And I think that was the one thing, like, as we started to build the idea of doing a podcast, there was like all these topics. I was like, this would be good to talk on the podcast.
Pod talks.
Yeah. So it, I want to get into that space where it's like, because I recognize when we recorded with Eon, when I first started introducing myself, it was in a way where it's like I was in front of this audience.
Totally.
And like,
I felt the same too. Yeah.
And it's like, no, it doesn't need to be like that. Yeah. It's like, you just need to have a conversation with the people that are on the episode, or on the call, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, we're going to work up to a point where we're going to forget, the whole production's here. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be sick. So, and hopefully this gets into a better production. So.
Yeah, but I mean, hey man, like, it's something.
No, it's a start.
It's something to celebrate. I mean, come on, like, you ultimately spearheaded the idea like 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So whatever it was, like, I don't even think it actually came up even naturally in conversation that, hey, we should do a pod. Mm-hmm. And then we launched it because personal branding and starting to post content and just, going down that opportunity vehicle route wasn't brought up until 3 weeks ago. And literally now here we are, taking a bunch of action, ordered a bunch of stuff, spent a good amount of money, even just, popping the cherry.
Yeah.
If you will. So
yeah,
it's something to celebrate even now. So.
Oh, for sure. And, with the hope of improving and getting into a place where, things are leveling up and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's a good place to start, because I think for anyone listening, really, this episode will be very much like a foundation. Get to know me, get to know Jordan. Like, we haven't even introduced ourselves. Mm-hmm. So part of it is, hey, yes, we have an audience, and we want to obviously like make sure that they're heard, and we know that they're there, and also have the conversation around the topics that we want to, and just like riff on it, because that's very much the idea. Is like, these are all the topics we talk about. It's typically in the lens of like how to even ourselves go from like this boy version of us in different aspects in your life, because you could be a man over here and a boy over here, like emotionally a boy, a man in the body, like we're both in very good shape. But, there's probably a lot of pieces emotionally that we still have to figure out. So it's like part of this conversation is like, hey, how do we figure this out for ourselves? Mm-hmm. And then part of it is like, hey, here's what we've done, or here's what we're seeing is working. And maybe you, the listener, could figure that out. And so I think just giving them a background on kind of why we started this, and like who we are, and why this is even the interest of the podcast, why it's called Boy2Man, like, getting into that, like, why are we even interested in talking about that? And then see where it takes us. So I think it's a good place to start with just personal branding, right? Like, for me, I've been like attempting to start posting content. Not attempting to start. I've been attempting the whole content game and personal branding thing at a serious level for probably like a year now, I would say. Mm-hmm. And very haphazardly. Since moving in together, and then a few months down the road, I would probably say like I started to actually take it serious where like, okay, I got an editor, you know, I have a full content bank. I'm like scripting all the time. And like that's part of my regular schedule and the mindset piece. So I'm in the personal brand game, I would say 100% now. And like obviously this is part of the reason why we started this. And so my background outside of that is right now I'm a health coach for entrepreneurs and sales guys, but the longer term vision is to really help all dudes, all men, wherever you're at, is to really help you become the best version of you as a man, specifically through the lens of a man, right? Like not a business guy, not, you know, a team member, not a brother, not a friend, like just as a man. And so that's my whole mission. And I run a company called Above Men, obviously. And with that, you know, done some cool stuff. It's been in the works for about a year now. And like I've had a ton of success so far for what it's been. It's been my first real experience in business. Prior to that, basically the reason I started Above Men was, you know, I didn't really have a strong male role model in my life. Really had to go figure it out on my own. I was super skinny, got picked on a ton because of my appearance with my physique, and that really bothered me to the point where like I need to go to the gym, figure that out. Started working out, started putting on some weight, you know, went on this like 10-year journey of just figuring out my physique, then nutrition, then sleep, then mindfulness, then nutrition again, because there's layers to it. It's not just about like macros, there's actually like quality of food. And then from there, you know, really I came to a fork in the road 9 years later of, hey, I'm not going to work where I currently was working, where it was with my buddies at a video production agency. I keep stumbling across all these roles. Like, you know, I actually calculated it. By the time I was 24, I had had 14 different jobs or businesses that I'd either started or been employed at, you know, and I'd moved 15 times before I was 24 as well.
Damn.
Yeah.
Crazy, actually. I didn't know that.
So part of the reason was, or part of the reason that was happening is because I just like kept squirming in my own skin, and I never felt like I like belonged to what I was doing or where I was. And then I had to ask the question. I'm like, you know, what would I do for the rest of my life if I only had to pick one thing? And that led me down to the path of Above Men. But I didn't start that clear. It was like, okay, fitness. Like, what's the thing that I've been committed to the longest? It's changed all these roles, been in a bunch of different industries, moved cities a bunch of times, moved homes a bunch of times. Like, what was the thing out of all of that, like, you know, chaos, quote unquote, what was the thing that I was like most consistent in? It was like my health, my energy, self-improvement, like just figuring myself out, what, you know, I now see it as a man, right? Because I didn't get taught that from my dad. When I figured that out, I'm just like, fuck, I would love to talk on this stuff. I always get energized when I'm talking about health, mindset, specifically as a man, dating, women, like I get fired up on that stuff. And then when I came to that fork in the road, 9 years later, after going on my own self-discovery journey, health journey, I was like, dude, this is it. And then started Above Men, a year later, you know, grown. I actually just recounted. I've had 40 guys go through the program, which was like, what the fuck? So some of them I've helped them and like gave them a discount. They weren't like the full customer. Some of them we did like trade of services. Some guys like joined and backed out, but they still joined it. But I would say like solid guys that have gone through it, paid me, etc. It's been like 30, 33, which is crazy to think about, and, you know, want to scale up big time this year. So yeah, in a nutshell, I'm sure you'll learn a ton more about me as we go through and listen, but just a bit about me. But back to why I started, or why we're even doing this, is, hey, personal brand, great way to get clips, great way to like share, you know, snippets and insights in a short amount of time. And I think this is also the reason why you're motivated to come on here, and where you're at with your journey. And so you kind of talk about that a little bit, and like work backwards from, hey, starting the personal brand, where you're at, why that is, and work backwards a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, for me, I'll just start off like, so, you know, obviously my name is Jordan. I've been living with Cam now for, I think, 6 months, since July. And we moved in together. I think it's a good place to start with the intention to like grow, not only in our personal lives, but definitely in the business lives, to like work together to how we can leverage each other, where we both hold each other accountable. We're both after a lot of the same things. So we wanted to make this move, not even though we're surrounded by abundance of food, of, women to be on like shitty dating apps and stuff like that. And alcohol, booze, partying, like a lot of people move downtown then to party if you're from here and you recognize us. So, we are proud to say that we haven't done that. So finally, we're actually actualizing on that. And now here we are, like really kind of putting the, for me now, more so on like the personal brand side. And like why I want to do this and start this personal brand is, well, there's a few things floating around. I work for Matt Gray, so he's quite big on socials, like 2 million in like 14 months he grew his following to from his personal brand. He is a founder of Herbs, a cannabis company, doing 8 figures. He's a big name in the personal brand space. He's one of the guys that actually pioneered interactive video, which actually
didn't know that, yeah.
recognized or got from Noah. And I thought back to when I started following Matt, and I was like, holy shit, that's actually true, because I started following when he was like living in Bali at a lower follower count. But anyways, so I'm Matt Gray's head closer, and so what we do is I coach founders, CEOs, C-level suite executives, basically founders, on how to grow their personal brand, on how to grow an audience, to monetize their audience, help them create an offer, develop their content strategy, everything A to Z of what it means to build an online brand in whatever niche industry you're a part of. I am the head personal brand strategist that helps enroll them into the program, but also seen as an expert to help guide them through those challenges. And so for me, as I sit here talking about this personal brand that I'm dying to start, it's been eating away at me this whole time. Like, dude, like I'm coaching people every day. I'm closing deals. I'm doing whiteboard sessions. Like today was my first whiteboard session. We should talk about that. It was actually sick. But I'm coaching people on how to start personal brands. And then in the back of my mind, as I've grown up, I've not only, had, people like you, but other friends as well tell me that, you're quite good on camera. And I've also had desires of what I've cured myself from in the past, going through my self-development journey, maintaining the level of fitness I do now, discipline, and all this good stuff that a lot of men are, need, and the world needs. And I know that the way to live the most abundant and vibrant lifestyle is to be in service of other people. And so while I'm in this role, and it's a great skill that I'm developing, and I feel very good at what I do, for myself, I haven't been doing it. And so I have the people that I'm selling on these calls constantly asking me, like, so what platform are you on? Where are you growing? Where's your audience at? What are you selling? Like, what do you do outside of Founder West? Do you have your own brand? And I sit there and I'm like, sometimes I'll stumble, sometimes I'll maybe tag on and say, oh yeah, like I'm helping out Cam and Above Men, because yes, we talk about the same things, but I haven't really taken action for myself. And so, so it's just funny to recognize that. But that has really kind of started the fire for me to start my personal brand. And I'm, very grateful to finally start taking action with what we've done. And obviously you holding me accountable to and ask me when I'm going to start posting content. But, and so that's why I want to start the personal brand. And like we talked about with...
But it's also bigger than that as well for you, like, because your long-term vision is like, hey, I have, this take that you want to go and do on your own accord. Like, you're not just doing it so you're a better salesperson. That's all what I'm getting around to.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. By no means. Like I said, what I'm doing it is to be in service of other people.
Yeah.
I know that is my calling, and I know, and I back that up by Myers-Briggs personality test. One of my key traits in I'm an ENFJ was altruistic, which means literally to give back to people to a degree. And so why I want to do this as well is, when I was 18, that's when I started getting into fitness. I remember I moved to Kelowna. So I did grade 12 in Kelowna. I was staying with my dad at the time. And I was the new kid in grade 12. So the reason why I went there in the first place was I was visiting him. And then it was probably a discussion like, hey, like, let's make sure you crush it this year or, pass. So remove the distractions and, just do grade 12 up there. But did that. The problem was, it's like, who really wants to make friends with the new kid in grade 12, right? So I was also, I tend to be, I'm about 64% extroverted and 37%.
64, wow, that's precise.
Yeah, also Myers-Briggs, and I remember that too. I definitely see the balance of that. So I wasn't like the one, especially at that time. I was shy. I was smaller. Didn't really come into my appearance, and like I said, I haven't really gotten into fitness yet. So I was definitely on the shy side, and so yeah, kind of was like lonely throughout grade 12, and then all of a sudden I started really getting into fitness, and I remember I landed on Sean T's Insanity, which is this Channel 2 guy on TV guides that would do late night. I'll have to show you him after. But the guy's like shredded and plyometrics, jumping around. And so I did this entire 2-month program before I got into weights. And I was like, dude, I was like ripping this up at like all hours of the day, like sweating my bag off, bro. And I was like downstairs in my dad's garage, and it was just like, and that's where I was sleeping. So I was doing it in my room. But it was like I had no door because it was in the garage, and the computer was down there for the whole household to use. So they'd come in there and just be like a little sweat lodge. I was always ripping it up. Dude, I bought my own food and stuff like that. And I had this shelving, which is a bookshelf. But anyways, so that's what started the fitness journey. And man, I went hard, bro, in grade 12.
Yeah,
and
this is sick.
When I went back to Langley and I moved back home, bro, I came fortunately, and I say this humbly, like I'm lucky, like I put on size, like I decently, not that I, that just came to me, like I put in the work, but anyways, I came back to Langley, and I was pretty yoked. And so what really took me to the next level then, and by the way, when I came back, this, I should mention, helped me gain some natural confidence as well. And I also, what propelled me was like the fact that, I wanted to get more respect from dudes, from men, and I wanted to command a presence when I walked into a room, and I wanted to have that effect. But I also wanted to classically, get more attention from women, because that's, you call it a shallow pursuit, but that's the ultimate driver.
Yeah, it's not shallow at all by any means. And again, this ties beautifully into the point of this podcast, Boy2Man. It's just like, hey, if I'm looking like a little fucking boy, I'm not going to get the attention of any girls.
Totally.
And if you physically, and this is like the easiest step to start attracting higher quality women, is to get a better physique, hands down. Because I know 100%. Both of us, that changed dramatically for us as soon as, and you're just about to get into this, but for me, same thing. It's like as soon as your body goes from boy to man, eyeballs start to turn.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like instant respect, it just, a new energy is birthed, and like because you're like at that age you're still like a younger brain too, so you think all that matters is that I look good. But that's just delusional confidence, and almost kind of works to a degree at that
point. It's like a fucking good marketing hook on like an ad with just like the shittiest product in the back end.
100%. So yeah, kind of boosted myself up, and bro, this is such a good story that I haven't even shared with you offline. What also helped me, not only with like working out and stuff like that, just feeling good about myself, I was doing renovations with a guy in Kelowna. Okay, it was a friend of my dad's, and just like home renovations. But this guy was a fucking stud, man.
Okay.
Like outside of like him being like a good looking guy, he was just he was a bit of a schmoozer. Like the things he was coaching me on and stuff. I remember he taught me like teasing to women. I'm dead serious, man.
Let's go.
Like, the first I actually, when he told me, I was like, really? Like I was kind of like taken back by that. And so dude, I can't believe I hadn't thought about this in so long. Yeah, his name was Spencer.
Pod Talks.
Pod Talks. His name was Spencer, and one insight that he gave to me was he was telling me a story about just like how you want to go about teasing a woman if like you were at a bar,
Right.
and like how you never want to buy a girl a drink that's dumb. And bro, that was like high level fucking information.
Wow.
Now I would convey that to any one of my friends who ever came to me for advice for dating. It's like, dude, it's the last thing you want to do. But he was telling me that. I'm like 19, like that's interesting. Why do you say that? And well, he was like and then he told me the story of how, like, you know, I see a girl kind of wearing like a hat at the bar, I'd be like, it's a weird hat. Just kind of like throw that out there. But you know, that's kind of like a bit of a pattern interrupt. What other guys can say that? It's super different and off cuff.
Totally.
And you can
no one's gonna have the courage to say that.
And you can easily divert into many different directions, but you're just simply teasing. It's fun. And so he was giving me pieces of game like this at that age, and I was like, huh, damn, okay, like let's kind of try it out. And so now with kind of this newly developed physique, I took that home, I moved back home, and I started really like practicing. Not only was I on Google and like searching up stuff,
classic,
but dude, I was literally putting it to action. Not like, oh, I can never do that, but because I had this delusional confidence, I was literally taking the action. So when we would go to bars or, you know, obviously I was on dating apps, definitely at that younger age too. I was getting a lot of reps in, kind of like this new podcast, we're getting reps in. And so, you know, I've really ultimately cured my ability to not only through my physique and leveling up my confidence and getting reps in and making conscious effort to fail and get rejected. I developed myself to have the ability to, you know, be confident in front of women, but also learn what works and what doesn't work at a very young age. And it's obviously, you know, developed into now. And so, you know, with the fitness, the man to woman dating, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I've also on these, you know, plenty of dates that I've been on, you know, it's changed a lot since, you know, I started dating and like taking out women and stuff like that, in the sense that there wasn't as big as of an attack on masculinity now, and like there wasn't as much awareness to like how men are so passive now, very kind of weak, and they don't lead and stuff like this. And so with that already kind of foundation, then having the self-awareness to recognize that I've kind of fallen into, because I had to be my own big brother to a degree. We can talk about this later, but you know, dad wasn't really around. That I've naturally had. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but I was in the military, so I've had leadership qualities, and so I think that's kind of taken me into, you know, and just recognizing like there's some really baseline stuff that what it means to be a man, at least to communicate that and be successful in these first dates, because kind of like with copywriting, the goal of the first sentence to get to read the second. So if you can't nail a first date, you can't get the second. So, you know, these kind of things I've learned, I've developed, you know, still obviously learning as well, like by no means an expert, just knowing what works for me. And so with the fitness, with man to woman dating, with some masculinity intertwined through that, you know, my whole mission as well, and through my self-development practices, and in 27, my whole mission now is to obviously give back, to raise a collective consciousness as well, specifically towards men, and help men step into the highest version of themselves, the most ultimate and dominant version. Because you just know that so many men are operating at such a low tier level, they don't even know what they're capable of.
Oh, for sure.
They're not pushing themselves enough. So there has to be more voices out there, more relatable and vulnerable voices out there to help guide men to different levels of greatness, to ascend to new heights. And so that's what I want to be. I want to be a vehicle for those men, but I want to, you know, being as personal and relatable and vulnerable as I can in doing so, because I'm by no means an expert. I am a student of the game forever. But if I can show you what's worked for me and what I think might be valuable, I want to be able to give that back to you and be a vessel for knowledge. So that was that's why we're here, man.
100%. And I think that's a good place to pick up on. I mean, there's a handful of places I could take that. But the first things first, going back to why, like what's been like eating at you, which is, hey, I'm out here selling the idea of personal branding and I'm not buying into it, or I'm not, engaging in it myself. Like you know, and I think that's a big unlock that will happen for you over these next couple months as you get into it, and then you actually see success. Because like we talked about, whether whatever your future is with Founder OS, that's for the future. But even if the long term is you hang out there, let's say, for example, by you operating in alignment with basically practicing your philosophy, right? This is a principle of mine. It's literally in my goal book, and it's something I believe that if every man isn't, like, if you as a man aren't operating in alignment with what you are saying, and when you say something and I actually look into your life about what you just said, and you're not doing or having the thing that you're talking about, there's a disconnect. Not that it lowers the respect that I have for you, maybe or maybe not, and again, that's person to person, but more so the trust and integrity you have with yourself.
Totally.
And I think that's going to unlock for you big time. It's like, not only you're going to have more confidence in the sales role, but you're going to start to flourish in ways that you otherwise wouldn't flourish, because you're like, hey, I believe in this thing, and I'm not doing this thing. And so instantly there's this disconnect.
Right.
So I think the first thing is like, A, that's going to be big for you, but then B, for anyone out there, take this as a learning lesson. It's like, where in your life, because like I said, one of my biggest principles, and I really try to do this, is practice your philosophy or operate in alignment. What you talk about, you should be, do, or have in your life at the level or higher than what you were speaking on. And so where in your life, where in your life right now, and this is a thing that I even ask myself, like when I got in, because again, my business is all about giving people advice in a large way, and that advice comes from the spoken word, and that advice comes also from.
That would be a killer especially if you were right now with a business and a brand.
100%. So not only it comes with the words that I'm speaking, but it also is coming from the actions that I'm taking and the guys inside my community and how they see me. And so, there's been days, and for anyone that's listening that is an above man, there's been days while I've shown up on a coaching call and I haven't practiced my protocol at the highest level, and which has resulted in me not being at my highest level of energy that I know I could be. Dude, in those calls, and I feel the utmost guilt during those calls, it's like it burns me inside, and like I try to do everything in my power to not be in a situation like that, where I'm not only serving them at a lower level, but then I'm again operating out of alignment. I'm making that disconnect where I know I'm not showing up as my best self.
Totally.
I know that for a fact. And so, like, anytime that happens, like, I really evaluate that and almost burn it into me as another rep, another scar, so I get further and further away from that being a reality. And I'll say, the more I've paid attention to when I'm not operating in alignment with myself, the more likely I am to only operate, or going to be operating in alignment more and more often. Does that make sense? Because when I first, and the reason I'm saying this is when I first started coaching, if I looked at the number of times where I would show up and say something and then go and do another thing, that ratio relative to what that ratio is now was dramatically higher than what it is now. Like, it's much lower. There's been very few days now where I actually show up on a call and I'm giving advice and I'm coaching and I'm telling someone like, hey, this is what I think you should do based off your situation, or well, this is what I would do. And then I'm turning around and not doing the thing. There's still times because I'm not, and this, funny enough, I'm not perfect, and this is what I tell the guys. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, and they're not perfect. Like, no one's perfect, right? And we have to understand that, so have self-compassion. But at the same time, how can we continue to strive for becoming that best, most dominant version of yourself, and back to that principle of operating in alignment?
How do you get other the men that you coach inside of Above Men, when, like, give me an example of a guy, maybe he continues to be out of alignment with himself, because, I have to say, like, caveat to this is, right, and part of this is like a personal story too, is like you, in many areas, like you've seen, and other guys too, they might be disciplined in many other areas of their life, but maybe it's like that one or couple things that keep hanging on. Like, how would you coach somebody through that, and what are like some of those tools or practices that you would get them to integrate into their life to help come over that?
Yeah, just because that's a general question, I'm just going to answer it on like a principle level.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all it really is it's your mindset. Like the tools, sure, they'll come in handy, and depending on what it is, there might be like, better physical tools to do stuff with, et cetera. Like a perfect example is, hey, I'm really disciplined with just getting my work done, but when it comes to going to the gym, I'm constantly procrastinating, and the way I'm procrastinating is being on my phone, for example.
Right.
Okay, a tool would be something like App Block, where you just couldn't be on your phone. So that's a tool for like a specific example, but the underlying principle that really works across the board is making the connection between the cause-effect relationships of when I do this thing over here in this part of my life, it's actually showing up in this part of my life, which seemingly are disconnected, but everything's connected. But it's just a difference of, are you going to be conscious of, is it connected and how is it connected? And in what ways is it showing up in this area versus this area? And if I can get them to make that connection and maintain clarity on that connection, that's when these other areas almost like unlock and become mirrored relative to how they're showing up in their disciplined areas.
Right.
Like if I'm disciplined with my business and the work I do in my business, or even a better example, one of the guys is like, hey, I'm super disciplined with going and doing sales. When it comes to finance, not disciplined. So perfect example. Well, are you making the connection, the clear enough connection that actually gets you to be motivated and take action, that by not being disciplined in your finances, for example, is actually affecting your ability to do sales, or what the sales impact is to your business? And a lot of the time, the quick answer is, yeah, I do. But it's like, do you because we're talking about it right now? And this is like kind of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like, because you're talking about it or learning about it right now, you feel like you understand it or aware of it. But then when you walk away from this conversation and you're going to do sales right now, but you should be doing financing, what is the thought that runs through your head at that very moment? Is it, oh, I should be doing finances because finances is affecting my sales? Or is it like, I don't need to do finances because X and Y reason? It's not about when we're having the coaching conversation, it's like, can I get you to think about what we're talking about in the moment when it actually matters?
Right.
And so that's the big piece, is like seeing, and someone at the Toronto event asked me, what do you think like the biggest takeaway a lot of the guys get from the program? And quite frankly, like from a principle level, there's a bunch of different things. Nutrition, some people need help with, routines, fitness. The underlying piece is getting them to see the core principles that make that habit a habit and how it relates back to their biggest desires. Which again comes back to cause-effect relationship. Do you understand how putting this work in over here, time, energy, effort in here, is going to show up in the thing that actually matters to you?
It's like ripple effects. It has like from that they don't see. So you're like making them aware of. Wait a sec, no, this actually does have adverse effects, even though you think they're seemingly unrelated.
Yes.
Wait a second.
Bingo.
Let's lay out the track within that and see where that actually comes from.
And this is one of the probably core reasons why someone should get a coach, or if not a coach, a very dedicated friend or mentor, or whatever word you want to use, someone that's has full insight on your life or that specific area that you're trying to optimize for, and then B, is willing to actually call you out on the blind spots and isn't afraid to maybe like hurt your feelings over it.
Right.
Like before I started to become a coach, I didn't actually see the value in coaching, partly because I never had good coaches. Like all my life in sports, in any of the business I had that I did have a coach, they were just like very weak and didn't really show me the value of it. But now being a coach, and I would say getting into a place where I'm becoming a very, very good coach, I see the value in it because I'm seeing how I'm impacting people, and why I'm able to impact it is partly because I am a third person or a third party. Like I am looking from the outside.
Right.
Where some of this stuff, like I wouldn't even be able to make these changes on my own, because what I'm pointing out is stuff that I wouldn't even be thinking on my own accord. So I think that's a really important reason why someone should have a coach or someone looking into your life on a constant basis if you're trying to optimize this area, because it's blind spots.
Right.
Hey, I don't think this thing's correlated.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, you might think health and business are correlated. So then you're like, yeah, I make that connection. Like if I eat good, I'm going to feel better. Okay. But then to what degree does it stop? Like where does your clarity stop with that statement of like health affects business?
Right.
Because you're like, oh, my food affects, how I feel. Okay, great. But if you're talking about health, that would also include things like working out, sleep, mood, emotion management, right? Stress levels. Are you making those connections? Probably not. And this is where it's like at some point, your awareness is going to get cut off and a coach is going to help you unlock that deeper awareness to say, oh, this, and this is actually being affected over here as well, and here's why. Or, hey, I knew this thing was affecting this thing over here. I knew my stress was actually affecting my business, but I actually lost the importance of how that matters, or I actually forgot that it actually had a connection. That what I see now doing this for a year is guys that were really dialed in on one thing, and they'll be dialed in on it for a couple months, and then like humans, we entropy, path of least resistance, we forget about it, we forget why it's important, and then we have to recommit. And again, a coach is there that the moment you lose sight of that, he should be able to remind you, this is why this is important, this is how it's important, da-da-da-da. Right? So, a little plug for why you should get a coach.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's true though, like even all like the biggest people in the social media space, personal branding, whatever industry they're a part of, any one of the big guys, like, Dakota Robertson, Matt Gray, who I work with, like everyone successful it pays for mentorship. There hasn't been one, even, like the greats, like they've all had mentors.
No one that goes to the top did it alone.
100%.
Like straight up. And
totally.
This actually reminds me of one of our shared mentors, Kevin Trudeau, that he literally talked about this and how this was evolved over the years. And a great book, by the way, if anyone hasn't read it, is Mastery by Robert Greene. And the reason I bring this up is he literally is putting into a full-fledged book the essence of what we're talking about right now, about like what a coach is, what a mentor is. Like you, the mentee, doesn't have a skill or a belief or a paradigm or whatever that is, the thing that's missing. You as the mentee have some sort of gap, and then you go out and look for a mentor that has the skill that he's currently missing in your life. And you're like, hey, I want to learn this skill. You have that skill. I like you. Yeah. Can I learn from you? And Robert Greene talks about this in Mastery. You literally go from apprentice to creative active to master. And that's been the case because Kevin Trudeau talks about this. Like that's literally how we learned in the secret societies of like, dude, you got a mentor and you watched him and you just watched him and 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 watched him. And then you learned. And then you started to put the stuff in place a little bit. And so it's true, like literally at the top, that is how it was done.
Right.
But now we've just been so scattered about what I think the biggest shift was when there wasn't enough mentors and I could be way off here, but there wasn't enough mentors or the opposite of an apprentice, whatever, master, whatever you want to call it, to like attach the new generation onto.
Right.
Or they're just like, hey, we don't even need this master, we can just plug you in, aka the Industrial Revolution. And you're just like, this is your job, there's no skill required, all you do is sit here for like 8 hours and you just do the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea of an apprenticeship is really just kind of disintegrated in our society in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And now it's popping back up as a paid thing.
Yeah. And then I think also it should serve as some value too, is like, if you can't afford a mentor, you literally create digital mentors.
Yeah, bingo.
And
like, that's, again, 100%.
I'm just thinking about when I talk about, it's so true, but I use it in, languaging that I say when I'm closing people as well, is, dude, like you need a mentor, like you need a sparring partner.
Yeah.
Is what I say.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah. No, and I actually would say anytime that I've followed someone very closely, I've either bought their courses, read their information, maybe I've never interacted with them directly. I think Kevin Trudeau talks about this as well, is I would still very much consider them a mentor. If I fully buy into their thesis on this specific topic, this skill, this belief that I'm trying to like inhabit, I'm like, hey, if I've read someone's collections of books
Yeah.
and I'm all in on this person. When I talk to someone else about them, like, hey, my mentor taught me X.
Yeah.
You know, because it's true. It's like, what's that? Like, that's the idea of a mentor. Now, of course, in today's world, we just see it as this guy or this person is, you know, you're interacting with them, you live with them, or you whatever. But that's not the case. To your point, digital mentors are everywhere, and that's it. I'm actually going to bring up a different point. So there's the digital mentors, and then there's the digital dementors in a way. You know what I mean?
What's this about? You mean like a distraction?
Yeah. Bingo.
You know, women just stupid like TikTok videos, whatever.
Yeah, because like in coming back to Kevin Trudeau,
digital dementors.
Yeah, straight up though, straight up, just
good.
riffed that.
That's good. That's good. That's
nice. Is Kevin Trudeau said one of the most important skills, and I fully believe this. One of the most important skills in the 21st century is going to be the skill of discernment.
That's right. He's big on discernment.
Discernment, and if you don't know what discernment is, go look it up. Because you need to know what this is, and you need to get really, really good at this particular skill in the digital world. And so we talk about digital mentors, digital, dementors. And on the flip side, it's like, hey, there's a ton of people you could learn from, and that's a bad thing. In a lot of ways, there's a little bit of good in that, in the sense of you have the choice to go and learn from anybody. But the bad is we're in an information overload. And that's what I mean by digital dementors. Is not only is there way too much options and our brains can't handle it. Like, it's like me when I go to fucking try to pick what I want to eat at a restaurant or go to the grocery store, and like being a little hedonic boy and I look at the ice cream selection. Dude, I sit there for 20 minutes because there's so many selections. So you take that and amplify it across. And then you follow all these people, right? Say you're following like 1,000 people on Instagram. All of them have like contradicting ideas. And then half their ideas are half-baked in the sense of they're not even legit. And so this is where this idea of digital dementors comes from, is like, yes, you have access to listen to and learn from some of the top people, but it's also just as detrimental to go out and listen to the wrong people.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
And this is why I've, other guys talk about, like, literally pick 1 to 2 guys that have 100%. Been where you are and have what you want, and just focus in, right? And for me, I did that over the past year when I was building Above Men. That was Brian Johnson over at Heroic, not vegan dude, but Brian Johnson over at Heroic, and I'm gonna shout him out. Like, go check him out. He changed my life in a lot of ways and allowed me to build Above Men because of the content. Just released a book, Arte, and that's what I did. Blocked out on pretty much everyone else. I was like all in on this one dude. And not only do you learn way more in general because you go deep on one person's subject, but you actually like integrate it at a much deeper level,
right? Because
you're not trying to like piece together a bunch of different people's work, but you take one master and his thesis and his complete collection of work, and you just install it into your life.
Right.
That's very much what I did with Brian Johnson. So
100%. That's a good point. When I was actually going through Arlen Moore's Maxi program, like one of the videos that he takes you through is it's all about just mindset design, right? So one of the videos that you go through, he talks about a story about this billionaire who owns like a series of villas in Bali, and I guess Arlen was spending time with him, and they were like watching a movie or something like that. I don't know, watching a movie, and then a commercial came on, and he noticed that every time the commercial came on,
he left.
The billionaire would leave the room. And I guess, Arlen was just kind of like interested in that, and then basically asked him a question after, like, hey, like, why did you leave the room? And it's like, he's like, I'm very, very careful about what I let enter my mind, which makes so much sense with why people talk about how important it is to be careful of what you let in your subconscious, which is what we're talking about downstream from that, is actually being able to properly discern the right information. Because if you're consuming all the time from varieties of different sources, and you're watching news is always negative, and you're reading too many books and not applying it. It's like then when it comes to actually taking action. And it's part of, as I say this, is kind of hitting hard in me actually saying this.
Operate in alignment. Practice your philosophy.
Yeah, for sure. But you become paralyzed because you're like, you don't even know what's right or what's wrong kind of thing. And so what I've done this week, and it's been a big hack that I've gotten from you, is I've committed this entire week to having my phone on that fucking landing.
Yeah.
Just outside.
Like basically, for context, away from your computer and
Away
your
from
reach,
the-
and out of sight, out of mind.
Away from the computer. I want to get up, doing the breathing routine exercise, which I've been committed to. Like I'm not checking the notifications or anything like that. Remove the notifications. I've noticed a big change. Like I've been way more productive this week.
Way more.
Just from that one practice. And now, because I'm limiting my social media usage, that's gone down. I've been way more intentional with when I do go on the phone, and I'll admit, like, hey, we're not perfect. I might have got sucked into an Instagram reel today, but the majority is like it's gone way down, and now I have more clarity about what I'm doing, and I've been feeling really good. Speaking of morning routines, actually, I haven't shared this with you, but dude, I can't wait to start shooting reels about breathing exercises, bro. I had a crazy, like, noticeably change in my mood.
Right. Wow.
From one, and I do this every morning.
Yeah.
I always feel good. Always energizes me. But specifically how I felt emotionally. This is yesterday. So, obviously for the viewers watching this and stuff like that, I've been sick. I've just got over it like 2 days ago. And I'm getting my tattoo blasted and removed, which is, I feel like I have a snail on my entire left arm, like a massive snail, just like welted over. So I've been like coming into the years, like taking action, creating content, starting the personal brand. But I've had a bit of a slower start, admittedly. Not that I haven't done anything, but just with the sickness and yada yada. That's fine. And so I was kind of like, I think I was feeling that, and so I cracked on with this breathing routine, which I'm doing with Awaken Lucas Mack. He does breathing exercise for like Jake Paul and like some pretty big names out there, and so it's a subscription based model. And I ripped it, and it was meet your higher self. That was the intention of the breathwork session. And every one I do in the morning is about 15 to 20 minutes, and it was just focusing on and bringing awareness to how I was feeling now. So when I woke up yesterday morning, like I didn't feel like, I wasn't jazzed, I wasn't like psyched kind of thing. But I was just feeling kind of just this angst, I guess, just kind of bit of, whatever. And I just wanted to feel better. Sorry, this is actually not yesterday, the day before. And so it was focusing and bringing awareness to the feeling on like the one that you don't want to feel, but just bringing awareness to it and like seeing it as just a feeling and not attached to it. And so it was that as you're breathing through this. And then it was just very simple exercise of thinking about how you want to feel and just recalling higher state emotions. There's more to it than that. Like I'm trying to recall all this right now, but dude, I'm telling you, like I just from that one shift within 20 minutes, dude, it's so elusive because you're like, how does it even like happen? But the key answer there is why breathing exercises have been so effective is because you always got to come back to the breath, which is like what we gathered from when we were in Tulum. That's what was coming to me. I was like, dude, the breath is always the answer. It is such this tool that it's so, we do it every day, but we're not using it to literally revitalize our system, to release negative emotions, to call ourselves into a higher vibration, bring ourselves there. Like it does all of this and more. Like it's an insane amount of benefits. It's
wild,
bro. Even like talking about it, I kind of get goosebumps because it's so simple. It's dumb. But still not. I wouldn't say that many people do it. Like
no.
I guarantee if you went out into even a group of, I would say, like-minded individuals, I would say less than half that room is actually committing to doing regular breathing exercises.
Totally.
So
like cold plungings, obviously the trend right now among like high performers, breathwork's still not hit that level.
Dude, crazy.
And I would say breathwork's more impactful than cold plunging. Like cold plunging's sick. I love it. I love cold exposure. But in terms of what I've gotten from breath work versus what I've gotten from cold plunging, from like a self-development standpoint and understanding of myself, 10x.
Yeah. So Yeah, I'm just super keen to keep on doing it because I still haven't had one of those breakthroughs, like emotional breakthroughs that I know I'm going to have one day. So and it's not like I'm working towards that as a trophy. It's
Yeah.
not why I say that, but of how much healing that it can bring, and just by being in alignment, and by me saying on this podcast that that's what I do every morning, and if I don't, then acting out of alignment, like just holding myself accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it was just really profound, and it was like noticeably like, wow, like wait a sec,
Yeah.
I'm good. Like, what do you like? It was the way your mind and your emotions play tricks on you is unbelievable. Like I was like, just kind of, yeah, I wanted to choose the right words here, but it just wasn't operating in a good high vibrational state that's going to attract things that I want. It was in that low state, and I literally went from low to fucking high within 20 minutes, and it was just like, I like looked around. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm good. Like I'm totally fine.
100%.
And all it took was me 20 minutes of commitment and showing up for myself to be tapped in.
Yeah, yeah. And again, one of the things is people are going to listen to this, and this is the interesting thing about starting to do what I'm doing and like putting out more advice and whatnot. Is people listen to that, and with the conviction that you had about how powerful the breath is, both of us just, giving testimony to breath is amazing, better than cold plunge, which a lot of people understand that, so it's like, hey, it's better than that, and then they still won't do it, which I find's crazy, right? And it's just like, hey, go fucking just try it, just like for yourself.
Right.
Go commit to the thing and test it out, because it's these things, and this is why I said it always comes back to the breath, right?
Yeah.
But it's more than the breath. The underlying principles, like, it's the fundamentals of being a human.
Yeah.
And you don't need no secret sauce. Like, sure, the therapy session's nice, but you can get a fucking pretty kick-ass therapy session out of like a 15, 20-minute breath work.
Yeah, dude. And you know what the tough thing about what you said there, though, is like, for the people that will listen to this and they won't take action in doing it, like me a few years ago, I probably would have been like that type of person, to be honest with you. What I will say, though, is like, and I was listening to a podcast today with Marcel Klein, that hypnotist and that success coach. A lot of what he said was like, it was like, fuck, that's so true. Is that so many people are still very, very pessimistic. So it's just, it goes to show like how important your mindset around is integrating these types of habits, these lifestyles, ways of being, modalities, tools. If you're not open to that in the first place, like, they're never going to create any kind of change, though.
Yeah.
So even if, no matter how authoritative you are, how much conviction you're speaking with, or the results, your ROI, and you can show that and prove that, and it's no doubt that you're telling the truth. If they aren't coming into it with an open mind, and they're not ready to receive that type of information because of XYZ thing happened to them that many years ago, and they still got that chip on their shoulder, and they're still dragging that shackles around their ankles, then unfortunately it kind of gets shot down. So it's almost like when people, I think, when they hit, when drug addicts, they hit bottom, it's like they want to change, they're desperate need, they have to change, and then they don't need an intervention, or they don't need some drastic measures from their family to drag them there, because they're not ready to change yet. They don't want to change. So
That's interesting.
It's almost like you need to be in such a deep, dark place, and like kind of like down, in order to actually, you need to be like, to want that, like, desperately, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I like, unfortunately, that is the case for most people. But I'll say, like, again, you don't have to get to that place. But again, it is unfortunate, because that even starting to coach and see how humans behave at a broader scale, not just like me and my buddies, but like how humans behave across the board, is like, yeah, it's unfortunately what it is, right? Like, I was talking to a dude in New York, and I think he just turned 40 or like early 40s, and he's known he need to go to the gym, known he needs to change his diet, known he needs to get his discipline dialed in for like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
But like, now things are starting to break in his body. That's
maybe
like,
he had a health scare, right?
Yeah, like it's just, and things are going to hit, and everyone has a different temperature. Like for me, I've always been very proactive. I remember I would go to the chiropractor and they'd be like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing's wrong." I just like,
yeah,
you know, or it's like,
dude, I just want to optimize my shit.
yeah, man. And again, unfortunately, not everyone thinks that way, and that's part of the reason we're doing this podcast, is doing our small part, and above man and da 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 da, like to make that shift. And I think that's why having a coach is another good reason. Another good reason why someone should have a coach is like if you trust him over here, you're going to be more open to buy into doing this thing over here. It's not always the case because not everyone shows up to my breathwork sessions, and that is what it is. But yeah, like everyone has different temperatures in different areas. But again, it's gonna. I guess to close that point off, I'm still searching to see if there's ways to shift or how to influence the openness in which someone is to embrace different habits or paradigms or beliefs or whatnot.
Yeah,
so
you gotta ensue some doubt.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever it is. The one book that's been coming back to me, actually two of them. One is in my office, which is The 48 Laws of Power, which has actually been on my mind a little bit more. So I feel like I can be more a little bit more iron fist. I feel like a little soft when it comes to, dealing with negotiations and whatnot. And then two, as I look over, the other book from Robert Greene is The Laws of Human Nature, I think that's called.
Yeah.
Both of those, I bet you would be able to tie that up, but yeah.
Yeah, those, it's, I look at those books and it's just like an infinite pool that has no depth, has no bottom.
Yeah.
Just because they're huge, and the concepts he talks about. But yeah, no, I would agree as well.
Yeah, I'm pumped to dive into those. But anyways, I feel like this is a good place to maybe round out the first episode. It's been about an hour or so.
Yeah. It's been great, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, the flow's been good. I've enjoyed this. Yeah. I think it felt. I don't know. How do you find this first go at it?
I felt great. Like I honestly felt like we did get to a point there where I felt like I was just chatting.
Yeah, sick.
And like I said at the beginning, like at some points get to the point where you're in so much flow that we forget the cameras and all this stuff is here.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I was putting on a performance by any means. Just simply asking questions and just letting things pan out the way they did. I think this was a great.
Yeah, no, I think there was, part of it is the first episode, maybe a couple episodes, just kind of getting the basics out of the way.
Yeah.
And then it's starting to be like, okay, well, how can we actually provide value to the audience? And I still feel like even this first episode, there was some good bits in there, for sure.
I think, and one thing that I also like, that I resonate with the idea of is just being as vulnerable, authentic, and real as you are, like we have been this entire time, without putting too much pressure on, like, we have to give value, even though we're going to give value. Like that's without question. It's going to come, but it's going to come naturally as well without us thinking, but like, oh, what's an crazy insight or eureka moment that I can provide right now with which would interrupt your flow. Because if you were like speaking on something, just letting it flow and it was coming out nice and with flow, I redundant, said that 3 times. But without thinking oh, how can I deliver this into a nice pitch now to hit home, and then I think it's just important to mention that we just started this. We're part of this is to raise the collective consciousness. The intention is there, and that's going to come as well. And I'm proud to just crack this on. Yeah. And I think I genuinely believe, and maybe this is naive, but somebody would watch this and resonate just for the fact that oh, these guys are just like me. Yeah. Maybe maybe a bit farther ahead, maybe even a little bit behind, but
totally. Because we very much are, and it was the one thing that I want to maintain. I think as the internet actually grows, it becomes easier. It's just who's willing to do it, is maintain a level of just humility. Dude. I think you always need to keep that, and the vulnerability, and just that hey dude, I'm a dude, I got struggles, and I'm also have desires of going and not making it big per se, but achieving my goals, which would then result in me creating a lot of impact for sure. But this is where we're starting. Like 1 year into a business, I got a good amount of debt I still got to clear up, fucking around with my finances, got taxes to pay, and the vulnerability side of just being, hey, business, if you look at my Instagram, like things are starting to look in the upward direction, which they are, and there's still the reality of like, hey, I'm this dude that still has this shit that he's got to figure out.
Yeah.
And same thing for you, right?
100%.
And so the more we can bring that, I think that's going to be great, because what I was going to wrap up to was, no, you don't need the big insight, because the education piece a lot of the time is great, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
It sometimes it's just like sharing a similar experience and be like, hey, this is what I went through.
Dude.
And that's valuable for someone else to listen to. It was just like, hey, this dude that, I could probably relate to is also going through the same thing.
100%.
Sweet. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm able to just take it down a notch from this shame and guilt that I'm having over my head of, oh, I should be here, or I should be doing this, or I'm a failure because I'm this, and whatever, right? Like, So I think, it doesn't need to be the big insight. It can just be, this is what we're up to, and this is what we're challenging with, etc.
Here's what we learned this week.
Yeah.
Oh, here's an insight that I arrived at that maybe you could learn how to adopt to your life. And it's kind of like, it just can be as simple as that. I think that's ultimately what it's going to be. And as we, continue to do this as well, and like we're, growing our personal brands, and we're taking action there, we're doing the reels and maybe fleshing out longer captions and doing all that stuff. Like all that stuff is reps for us. It's practice. It's done is better than perfect is the whole motto there. So we're working through our own I maybe you don't deal with this as much, but being a perfectionist, stuff like that. And then as we do that, we're learning, going through that journey, and just delivering that back to whatever, whoever, comes on board and wants to be a part of the journey and the mission. So.
Yeah. The last thing, as we were talking, I think we actually mentioned this before we started recording, was I also think that it's, I said it in a different way, but the way I was going to say it now was, I think it's also going to build our relationship more. Because even just this podcast is like, this is the most we've taken to like actually speak uninterrupted. Because say for instance, the times that we'll typically speak in a long amount would be like if we go out for dinner.
Totally.
But we still don't really have rigid rules, and maybe we should, of like, hey, no phone, or just have our phones away and just be present, even if there's no conversation. Like, at least we're present with each other. But this is the first time we've done that in a while. Of like, it's been like an hour or 15 or so.
Dude.
And I think that's going to open up a lot of conversations just between us and our relationship, which is then going to make this podcast better, more valuable, better flow, more synergy, et cetera, et cetera. So, some good benefits, along with lots of, hopefully, Instagram clips. So.
100%. Okay, well, I feel like due for a fucking fist pound, so.
Let's go, bro. Yeah.
Let's go.
So, I think our posting schedule to finish up is going to be probably weekly. We're going to try to like record one at least once a week, and then we'll go from there. And you can find me at Cam Russelle, Russelle, on Instagram and YouTube, which you're probably watching this on YouTube. And then where you can
follow me on Instagram at Jabes_JB, JABES_JB, and I'm going to be also documenting on TikTok as well. And on TikTok, I'm the Biz Athlete, BIZ_athlete. So, that's my brand, the Biz Athlete.
There we go. So see you on episode 2.
Lock it in. Let's go.
Fire.
Let's go, dude. That was sick. That was dope.
Yeah, it was.
That was sick.
Yeah, it was.
Fucking dope. That was sick. Feeling good about that.
Yeah, no, it was sick, like just getting in there